Commander Lisa Martinez stood at the big window of the human ship called New Horizon and looked out at the stars that filled the dark space around them. The ship had been her home for 3 years now, as she led the human colony mission to find new worlds where people could live and build cities. Lisa was 35 years old, with short brown hair and green eyes that had seen many battles. She wore the blue uniform of Earth Command and carried herself like someone who had learned to make hard choices. The other crew members trusted her because she always kept them safe even when things got dangerous. On this quiet morning, Lisa was drinking her coffee and reading reports when something impossible appeared outside the window. A ship, unlike anything in their computer files, came toward them through space. The vessel looked alive somehow, with smooth curves and a surface that seemed to glow with its own light. It moved like a living creature swimming through the stars instead of a machine built by hands. The ship was beautiful but also strange. Its hull seemed to be made from some kind of organic material that pulsed with soft blue and silver light. The design was so different from human ships that Lisa felt her heart start beating faster. She had seen ships like this before, but that was 15 years ago, and she had tried to forget. The alien ship moved closer to New Horizon and sent a message asking to dock. Lisa stared at the communication screen. The words were in perfect English, but the voice that spoke them made her hands shake. It was a voice she remembered from dreams and nightmares, a voice that belonged to someone who had vanished from her life without any explanation. When the docking was complete, Lisa walked to the airlock with 6 armed security guards. She tried to look calm, but her mind was racing with memories of another time and another place. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, and Lisa saw a figure step through that made her breath catch in her throat. Kaylin Starweaver looked exactly the same as she had 15 years ago. Her long silver hair flowed like liquid metal, and her violet eyes held secrets older than human civilization. She was tall and graceful, with pointed ears that marked her as one of the elf people. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and she wore clothes made from materials that seemed to shift color in the light. Behind Kaylin came something that made the security guard step back in fear. A massive dragon with scales black as deep space and eyes like burning amber. The creature was the size of a small shuttle with wings folded against its powerful body. Its name was Shadowflame, and Lisa remembered how intelligent and dangerous it could be. Kaylin smiled, that same mysterious smile Lisa remembered so well. The elf woman looked at Lisa with those ancient eyes and spoke in her musical voice. "Did you miss me, human?" she asked, as if no time had passed at all, as if she had not disappeared without a word 15 years ago. Lisa wanted to be angry. She wanted to demand answers about where Kaylin had gone and why she had left. But looking at her old friend, Lisa noticed things that had changed. There were new scars on Kaylin's arms, and her eyes held a hardness that had not been there before. Shadowflame also seemed different. The dragon watched everything with the alert gaze of a predator expecting attack. Before Lisa could ask any questions, the ship alarm began to sound. The bridge crew was calling her over the communication system, telling her that their long-range sensors had detected something terrible. A massive fleet of unknown ships was approaching their position, and they were moving fast. Kaylin's expression changed from mysterious to worried. She looked at Lisa with something like fear in her ancient eyes. "They found me," she whispered in a voice so quiet only Lisa could hear. "And now they have found you too." Lisa felt cold fear run down her spine. She remembered the last time she had seen ships like the ones approaching. They belonged to something called the Voidborn, creatures of darkness that consumed entire worlds. The memory of what those things could do made her sick. Kaylin turned to look out the window at the approaching fleet. Her dragon companion moved closer to her side and made a low rumbling sound that was part growl and part moan. "Lisa, we need to talk," Kaylin said. "There are things you need to know about why I left and why I came back. The Voidborn have returned, and this time they mean to finish what they started." Lisa looked at the sensors showing hundreds of dark ships moving toward them, like a storm cloud. She looked at Kaylin and saw the weight of terrible knowledge in her eyes. She looked at Shadowflame and saw a creature ready for war. The quiet morning had become something else entirely. Lisa knew that her life and the lives of everyone on New Horizon had just changed forever. The woman she had once trusted more than anyone had returned, but she had brought danger with her. Lisa made her choice. She ordered the security guards to escort Kaylin and Shadowflame to a secure meeting room. Then she called all senior officers to an emergency briefing. Whatever was coming, they needed to be ready for it. As they walked through the corridors of New Horizon, Lisa could not help but remember the last time she and Kaylin had worked together. It had ended with victory, but also with loss. Now they were together again, facing an enemy that could destroy everything they cared about. The dragon Shadowflame walked beside them, silent and watchful. Its amber eyes seemed to see things that others could not. Lisa wondered what the creature knew about what was coming. She wondered if any of them would survive to see another quiet morning. In the secure meeting room deep inside New Horizon, Lisa sat across from Kaylin, while Shadowflame curled up in the corner like a giant cat. The dragon eyes never stopped watching the humans who filled the room. Lisa had called her best officers to hear what Kaylin had to say. Captain Amy Rodriguez was there, along with Dr. Rebecca Stone and Lieutenant Maya Foster. They all stared at the elf woman with curiosity and fear. None of them had ever seen anyone like Kaylin before, with her pointed ears and silver hair that seemed to glow. Kaylin began to speak, and her voice carried the weight of centuries. She told them about a time long ago when the galaxy was young and full of life. There had been many races then who traveled between the stars and built great cities. The elves had been guardians who protected all life from the darkness that lurked in the empty spaces between worlds. The darkness had a name. The Voidborn were creatures made of pure shadow and hunger. They moved from world to world, consuming everything they touched. Not just the land and water, but the very souls of the people who lived there. When the Voidborn finished with a planet, nothing remained but empty rock floating in space for thousands of years. Elves had fought them using their dragon companions and weapons made from starlight itself. The elves called themselves Star Weavers because they could bend the energy of stars to their will. But the war was long and terrible. Many worlds fell before the Voidborn could be stopped. Finally, the greatest Star Weavers had worked together to create a prison for the Voidborn. They used ancient magic to lock the dark creatures away in a place outside normal space and time. The ritual had cost many lives, but it worked. The galaxy became peaceful again. Kaylin had been one of the younger Star Weavers during that great war. She and Shadowflame had bonded when they were both very young. The dragon had chosen her as his partner, and together they learned to fight the darkness. But when the war ended, most of the Star Weavers died from their wounds or simply faded away from exhaustion. Only a few elves remained to watch for signs that the Voidborn might return. Kaylin was one of these guardians. She spent centuries traveling the galaxy looking for any trace of the dark creatures. Her search had led her to a human research station 15 years ago where she met Lisa at that time. The Voidborn were starting to test their prison. They sent small scouts through cracks in the barrier to explore the galaxy and see what had changed while they were locked away. The scouts found the human research station, where Lisa was working on deep space sensors. Lisa remembered that time well. She had been a young scientist, then excited about discovering new forms of life. When the strange readings started appearing on her screens, she thought she had found something wonderful. Instead, she had found the beginning of a nightmare. The Voidborn scouts had tried to consume the research station and everyone in it. They were smaller than the full-grown Voidborn, but still deadly. They could drain the life from a person just by touching them. Lisa watched in horror as her friends and co-workers fell, one by one. Then Kaylin and Shadowflame had arrived like heroes from an old story. The elf woman wielded weapons made of pure starlight, while her dragon breathed fire that could burn through solid metal. Together they drove off the Voidborn scouts and saved what remained of the station. But the attack had shown that the ancient prison was weakening. The Voidborn would soon break free in numbers too great to fight. Kaylin faced a terrible choice. She could stay and help Lisa rebuild the station, or she could use a dangerous ritual to buy the galaxy more time. The ritual was called the Temporal Exile. It would send Kaylin and Shadowflame into a pocket dimension where time moved differently. They could spend what felt like centuries preparing for the Voidborn return while only years passed in the real galaxy. But the magic was dangerous and might kill them both. Kaylin had made her choice without telling Lisa. She performed the ritual one night while Lisa slept. When Lisa woke up the next morning, Kaylin and Shadowflame were gone. There was no goodbye, no explanation, just empty rooms where her friends had been for 15 years. Lisa had wondered what happened to them. She became a military officer and worked her way up to command. Always, in the back of her mind, she hoped that someday Kaylin would return. Now that day had come, but it brought terrible news. In the pocket dimension, Kaylin and Shadowflame had trained and studied. They learned new ways to fight the Voidborn and discovered weaknesses in their enemy that had not been known before. But they also watched as the ancient prison continued to weaken. The Voidborn had grown stronger during their long imprisonment. They had learned to work together in ways they never had before. Their hunger had grown until it was like a black hole that could never be filled. When they broke free, they would be more dangerous than ever. Worse, the galaxy was not ready for them. Most of the old races were gone or had forgotten how to fight. The humans were new and had never faced anything like the Voidborn before. Their ships and weapons were powerful, but designed to fight other physical enemies, not creatures made of living shadow. But Kaylin had discovered something interesting about humans during her exile. They were different from other races in ways that might be important. Humans could adapt and change faster than anyone else. When faced with impossible problems, they found new solutions that no one else would think of now. The prison was finally breaking. The Voidborn fleet approaching New Horizon was just the beginning. Soon thousands of their ships would pour out of the dark places and begin consuming worlds again. The galaxy needed defenders, but the old ways of fighting might not be enough. Kaylin looked at Lisa and the other officers with desperate hope in her eyes. She needed their help to save not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. The humans had developed new technologies that might be combined with elf magic to create weapons powerful enough to stop the Voidborn. But first they had to survive the approaching battle. The Voidborn had found Kaylin, and they would not let her escape again. This time they meant to finish what they had started. Long ago, the war for the galaxy was about to begin. Maya Foster lay on the medical table with wires and sensors attached to her head, while Stormfire, the young silver dragon, curled beside her. The neural link process was beginning, and everyone in the room held their breath. Dr. Stone monitored the life signs on her screens while Kaylin chanted in the ancient elf language. The connection started slowly as human and dragon minds touched each other for the first time. Maya gasped as new sensations flooded her awareness. She could suddenly feel the movement of planets and stars, the flow of cosmic energy through space itself. It was overwhelming and beautiful and terrifying all at once. For a moment it seemed like Maya might die from the shock. Her heart stopped beating, and her brain showed no activity. But Stormfire refused to let his new partner go. The dragon poured his own life energy into Maya, bringing her back from the edge of death. When she opened her eyes, they glowed with silver light. Maya could now see things no human had ever perceived before. She watched gravitational currents flow between worlds like invisible rivers. She felt the pulse of stellar radiation washing over them in waves. She understood how dragons navigated through dimensions by reading these cosmic signs. The first test came immediately as Voidborn ships attacked the medical station where the experiment was taking place. Maya and Stormfire moved together like they had been partners for years. Their fighter craft danced through enemy, fire following paths that seemed impossible to other pilots. Meanwhile, Kaylin was reaching out across the galaxy using ancient communication networks that had been silent for centuries. She sent messages to hidden worlds where other survivors might still live. The elves were nearly extinct, but other races had also escaped the great purges of the past. The first to answer was a deep space station inhabited by beings called the Christek. They were creatures made of living silicon who could create energy shields stronger than any metal. Their city was a maze of crystal spires that sang in harmony when solar winds passed through them. The Christek remembered the Voidborn from stories passed down through their geological generations. They had survived by hiding deep underground on worlds too poor in resources for the dark creatures to bother consuming. Now they emerged to join the fight with weapons made from focused starlight. Next came the deep swim from the water worlds of the outer rim. These aquatic beings looked like giant octopi with multiple arms that ended in delicate hands. They were masters of stealth and infiltration, able to slip through enemy defenses like flowing water. Their ships could become invisible by bending light around them. The Ironwing responded from their mobile fleets that never stayed in one system for long. They were cybernetic beings who had replaced much of their organic bodies with mechanical parts after the Voidborn destroyed their homeworld. Their ships were the fastest in known space, and their pilots had reflexes enhanced by computer implants. But when these survivor races met with the human fleet, the reunion was not happy. The other species looked at humanity with suspicion and fear. They had all tried to fight the Voidborn before and failed, losing everything they cared about in the process. The Christek leader was an ancient being whose crystal body had grown for thousands of years. His voice rang like church bells when he spoke. "You humans are too young and reckless," he said. "You do not understand what you face. The Voidborn have consumed entire galactic arms. Your weapons and courage will not be enough." The Deep Swim commander flowed through her water-filled suit as she examined human technology with her multiple arms. "We have seen species like yours before," she gurgled in her liquid voice, full of hope and innovation until the first real battle. Then they break like glass beneath the weight of true despair. Only, the Ironwing seemed impressed by what they saw. Their leader was more machine than living being now, with glowing red optical sensors where eyes once were. "Your adaptability is interesting," he buzzed through electronic speakers. "Perhaps you will last longer than most before the darkness takes you, but Maya Foster changed everything when she demonstrated the human-dragon neural link." The other races watched in amazement as she and Stormfire moved through complex maneuvers that should have been impossible. The young woman could perceive space-time flows like a dragon while keeping human creativity and unpredictability. "This is new." The Christek elder admitted, his crystal body ringing with surprise. "In all our centuries, we never imagined such a union was possible." The dragons were always too proud to share their consciousness with other species. Dr. Stone explained how human neural plasticity allowed them to adapt to alien thought patterns. Other species had fixed mental structures that could not change, but human brains were flexible enough to merge with dragon consciousness without losing their essential humanity. The first joint operation tested whether the alliance could actually work together. The target was a Voidborn staging area near the edge of human space where dark ships gathered before attacking colonies. Each race would contribute their special abilities to the assault. The Christek created massive energy barriers that protected the Allied fleet from Voidborn mental attacks. The shields hummed with crystalline harmonies that countered the despair frequencies broadcast by enemy ships. Human crews found they could think clearly for the first time since the war began. Deep Swim infiltrators slipped through Voidborn defenses like ghosts in the water. Their stealth ships planted quantum mines throughout the enemy formation. The mines would detonate simultaneously, creating cascading explosions that could destroy entire fleets. Ironwing fighters provided reconnaissance and rapid strike capability. Their cybernetic pilots processed battle data faster than biological minds could follow. They identified weak points in Voidborn formations and transmitted targeting information to other Allied ships. Human vessels enhanced with elf technology served as the main assault force. Maya and other human-dragon pairs led the attack using their ability to predict enemy movements. The combination of human unpredictability and dragon wisdom proved devastatingly effective. But the battle revealed something terrible about their enemies. The Voidborn were not just destroyers, they were collectors. Every ship they consumed, every world they devoured added to their knowledge and power. They had been studying the galaxy during their imprisonment, learning the strengths and weaknesses of every species. The Voidborn command ship at the center of the formation was massive beyond description. Its hull was made from the compressed remains of 1,000 consumed worlds, and the consciousness of billions of devoured beings powered its weapons. The dark energy it projected could drain the life from entire star systems. During the battle, Kalen and Shadowflame attempted a desperate assault on the command vessel. They fought through waves of smaller ships using star-weaving magic to clear a path. But void-born defenses were too strong, and they were captured before they could reach their target. Lisa watched in horror as her oldest friend was dragged aboard. The enemy flagship sensors showed Kalen and Shadowflame being taken deep into the ship structure, where torture chambers waited. The Voidborn wanted to extract information about Starweaver sanctuaries and ancient weapons. The Alliance had won the battle but lost something precious. Lisa faced an impossible choice. She could continue the war effort and let Kalen die, or she could risk everything on a rescue mission that might doom their cause. The weight of command had never felt heavier. The Voidborn attack began with sound that was not really sound. It came through space itself, making the hull of New Horizon vibrate like a struck bell. The noise entered the minds of everyone on the ship, filling their thoughts with whispers of despair and hopelessness. Many crew members fell to their knees, holding their heads and screaming. Lisa fought against the mental assault and managed to reach the bridge where Captain Amy Rodriguez was struggling to keep the ship operational. The Voidborn had weapons that attacked the mind as well as the body. Their dark ships broadcast frequencies that drove most thinking beings insane, but humans proved different from other races. The chaotic way human minds worked made them more resistant to the Voidborn mental attacks. While other species fell into madness, humans could still think and fight. The crew of New Horizon was hurt and confused, but they did not break through the view screen. Lisa could see the Voidborn fleet approaching. They looked like living nightmares shaped into ships. Their hulls were black as empty space and seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Strange tentacles and spines grew from their surfaces, moving like the limbs of deep-sea creatures. Kalen arrived on the bridge with Shadowflame close behind her. The elf woman moved to the science station and began working with equipment that had never been designed for her species. Her fingers danced over controls as she tried to combine human technology. With her own star-weaving abilities, we need to modify your weapons, Kalen said as she worked. The Voidborn have defenses against physical attacks, but they are vulnerable to certain energy frequencies. Your ships can be enhanced if you trust me to change them. Dr. Rebecca Stone joined Kalen at the science station. The human scientist was fascinated by what she saw. Kalen was somehow making human computers work with crystalline matrices that pulsed with their own inner light. The combination created something entirely new. Meanwhile, the human fleet was preparing for battleships that had been exploring peaceful worlds, now armed themselves for war against an enemy they did not understand. Admiral Janet Brooks commanded the fleet from her flagship, but she had never fought anything like the Voidborn. The first battle happened near the moons of Jupiter. Human ships equipped with Kalen modifications fought against Voidborn vessels in a dance of light and shadow. The enhanced human weapons could actually hurt the dark ships, but the enemy adapted quickly to each new attack. Shadowflame showed abilities that amazed everyone watching. The Great Dragon could somehow step between dimensions, appearing inside Voidborn ships to attack them from within his claws, and fire could tear through their strange hulls while their weapons could not touch him when he phased out of normal space. Lieutenant Maya Foster volunteered to pilot a fighter craft enhanced with elf technology. She was young and brave, with blonde hair and blue eyes that held no fear. The modified fighter moved like it was alive, responding to her thoughts as much as her controls. During the battle, Maya discovered that the combined human-elf systems could predict where Voidborn ships would appear next. The technology read the flow of energy through space and time, showing her enemy movements before they happened. It was like seeing the future, but only seconds ahead. The human fleet fought better than anyone expected. Their ships were faster and more flexible than the ancient vessels the Voidborn remembered. But the dark creatures had their own advantages. They could repair damage instantly, and their numbers seemed endless as the battle raged. Dr. Stone made a breakthrough in her laboratory deep inside New Horizon. She found a way to link human minds directly with dragon consciousness. The process was dangerous and might kill the human volunteer, but it could give them power beyond anything they had dreamed. The neural link would let a human see space and time the way dragons did, feeling the currents of gravity and stellar wind that flowed between worlds. With this knowledge, they could navigate impossible paths through space and strike at enemies from unexpected directions. Kaylin was torn between hope and fear when she heard about the experiment. She knew it might give them the edge they needed to win, but she also knew it could destroy the minds of anyone who tried it. The link between elf and dragon took years to develop safely. Humans wanted to do it in minutes. The war spread beyond the Jupiter system as more void-born ships poured out of hidden portals. The dark creatures began attacking human colonies, directly forcing desperate evacuations from worlds that had been peaceful just days before. On the planet New Eden, families loaded everything they could carry onto transport ships, while void-born scouts circled overhead like vultures. The evacuation ships were slow and defenseless, but human fighter pilots bought time for them to escape. Many pilots died, making sure civilians could reach safety. Lisa watched the reports coming in from across human space and felt the weight of command crushing down on her. Every decision she made would save some lives and doom others. The Voidborn seemed to know exactly where to attack to cause the most pain. Kaylin worked without rest, trying to enhance more human ships with elf technology, but there were too few Starweaver weapons left and too many enemy vessels. The mathematics of war were simple and terrifying. The Voidborn would win through sheer numbers unless something changed. Shadowflame brought disturbing news from his dimensional travels. The dragon had seen Voidborn staging areas hidden in the dark spaces between stars. Their fleet was even larger than anyone had guessed. They had been preparing for this return for centuries, building ships and gathering strength. The weight of approaching defeat hung over New Horizon like a storm cloud. Lisa and Kaylin worked together as they had 15 years ago, but now they both carried scars from the battles they had fought alone. The easy friendship they once shared had been replaced by something harder and more desperate. Then Maya Foster stepped forward with a request that changed everything. She wanted to be the first human to try the neural link with a dragon partner. She had been working with one of Shadowflame offspring, a young dragon called Stormfire whose scales shone like polished silver. The procedure would happen in the medical bay, while the battle for human space continued around them. If Maya survived, she would become something new, a hybrid consciousness that could fight the Voidborn in ways never tried before. If she died, her sacrifice might still teach them how to make the process safer for others. Lisa gave permission for the experiment, knowing she might be sending a brave young woman to her death. But the war was going badly, and desperate times called for desperate measures. The future of humanity might depend on what happened in that medical bay. Lisa Martinez stood in the command center of New Horizon, staring at the tactical display that showed Voidborn ships spreading across human space like a cancer. The Alliance fleet was winning smaller battles, but losing the war. Every victory cost them ships and people they could not replace. The logical choice was clear. Kaylin and Shadowflame were probably dead already, and a rescue mission would only waste resources needed for defense. But Lisa could not accept that logic. Her friend had sacrificed everything to give the galaxy a chance, and Lisa would not abandon her. Now Maya Foster approached with Stormfire walking beside her. The young woman glowed with silver light from her neural link, and her eyes held wisdom beyond her years. "Commander," she said, "I can feel Kaylin through the Dragon Bond network. She is still alive, but not for much longer." Lisa made her decision against all strategic wisdom. She would take a small strike team to rescue Kaylin while the main fleet engaged the Voidborn Armada. It was probably suicide, but some things mattered more than survival. Maya volunteered immediately along with volunteers from each allied species. The rescue ship was a modified human corvette enhanced with technology from all 4 races. Christech shields protected it from detection. Deep swim stealth systems made it nearly invisible. Iron wing engines gave it impossible speed, and elf star-weaving weapons could cut through any defense as they approached the massive Voidborn command ship. Lisa felt fear and determination warring in her chest. The vessel was the size of a small moon, with organic towers and spines growing from its surface like a diseased organism. Streams of dark energy flowed between the structures, carrying the screams of consumed civilizations. Inside the ship, they found corridors made from compressed bone and metal. The walls pulsed like living tissue, and the air tasted of despair and death. Maya led them deeper, using her dragon-enhanced senses to navigate the maze of passages that seemed to shift and change when no one was looking. They found Kalen in a torture chamber deep in the ship heart. The elf woman hung suspended in chains of dark energy, while void-born interrogators drained memories. From her mind, Shadowflame was trapped in a cage nearby, his mighty form reduced to skin and bones by the life-draining field. But as they fought to free their friends, Lisa realized something was wrong. Kalen was not fighting the interrogation, she was controlling it. The elf woman had been feeding false information to her captors while secretly sabotaging the command ship from within. Her apparent weakness was actually careful planning. Kalen smiled weakly as Lisa cut her down. "I knew you would come," she whispered. "Though I hoped you would be smarter and stay away, the ship core is rigged to explode. We have maybe 10 minutes before this whole vessel becomes a quantum cascade bomb." The rescue became a desperate race against time as alarms began sounding throughout the massive ship. Voidborn warriors poured into the corridors hunting for the intruders. Maya and Stormfire fought like beings possessed their combined consciousness, making them faster and deadlier than any single fighter. Meanwhile, the main battle raged across multiple star systems. The Christek had created a defensive line using their shield technology, while Deep Swim raiders struck at Voidborn supply lines. The Iron Wing provided reconnaissance and rapid response, but the enemy numbers seemed endless. Dr. Stone had made another breakthrough back on New Horizon. She discovered how to network multiple human dragon pairs together, creating a group consciousness that could process battle data faster than any computer. The linked pairs could coordinate attacks across vast distances with perfect timing. But the true turning point came when Kalen and Lisa, working together inside the exploding command ship, discovered the Voidborn greatest weakness. The dark creatures were linked through a hive mind that made them powerful but also vulnerable. If that connection could be turned against them, they would consume themselves using modified neural link technology. Kalen and Lisa temporarily merged their consciousness with the Voidborn network. The experience was horrifying beyond description. They felt the hunger and hatred of billions of dark entities pressing against their minds like a crushing weight, but human stubbornness and elf wisdom proved stronger than ancient evil. Together they introduced a virus into the Voidborn collective consciousness, a feedback loop that made the creatures turn their consuming hunger against each other. The dark network began eating itself from within the bee. Cascade effects spread faster than light through Voidborn spaceships that had existed for millennia, collapsed into quantum foam as their crews devoured each other in an endless cycle of hunger. The great fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for eons destroyed itself in minutes as the command ship exploded around them. Lisa held Kalen close while Maya and Stormfire created a dimensional rift to carry them to safety. Shadowflame, weak from his captivity, still managed to shield them with his remaining strength. They emerged in normal space just as the massive vessel became a new star. The war was over in a way no one had expected. The Voidborn had not been defeated by superior weapons or tactics, but by their own nature turned against them. The survivors fled back to whatever dark spaces had spawned them, leaving the galaxy free from their shadow. In the aftermath, a new government formed called the Galactic Renewal Council. Humanity took a leadership role due to their adaptability and willingness to work with other species. Lisa became the first human ambassador to the council, while Kalen served as advisor on ancient threats. The relationship between Lisa and Kalen evolved from friendship forged in war to something deeper and more lasting. They had seen each other at their worst and best and found that their bond could survive anything the universe threw at them. Across the galaxy, human-dragon partnerships spread as young people from many species learned to work. Together, children who had never known war played together while their parents rebuilt what had been lost. The cycle of destruction seemed finally broken. New academies opened to teach the arts of star weaving and dragon bonding. Human students learned, alongside elves, while Christek masters shared their shield techniques. Maya Foster became an instructor, showing others how to achieve the neural link safely. On quiet evenings, Lisa would stand at the same window where she had first seen Kalen return. Now, instead of looking for threats, she watched construction ships building new colonies and trade routes. Stars that had been dark for centuries burned bright again with the light of hope. The galaxy was healing and humanity had found its place. Among the older races, not as junior partners but as equals who brought their own gifts to the community of worlds. The future stretched ahead, full of possibilities that no one could have imagined when the war began. Shadowflame recovered his strength and sired many offspring who bonded with human partners. The dragons seemed to understand that their ancient isolation was ending, and they embraced their new role as guides and protectors. Lisa often wondered if they had truly ended the threat forever, or simply pushed it back into the darkness to wait for another chance. But watching children laugh and play under alien suns, she decided that some questions were better left for future generations to answer.